I have ever preached from the book of Lamentations. So, bear with me, we're going to have some fun today. And we'll have a visit back from our friend Forky, just briefly, but we had fun with him last week. And so we'll talk about him as well too. So Lamentations chapter 3, verses 19 through 30. The thought of my affliction and my homelessness is wormwood and gall. My soul continually thinks of it and is bowed down within me. But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases, his mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul, therefore I will hope in him. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul that seeks him. It is good that one should wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. It is good for one to bear the yoke in youth, to sit alone in silence when the Lord has imposed it, to put one's mouth to the dust. There may yet be hope, to give one's cheek to the smiter, and to be filled with insults. So, word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Great is thy faithfulness. It's a beautiful hymn. It's a hymn that we all love. One of the very interesting things that when I was doing the research about this hymn is it was not part of our hymnal until 1989, which may be very alarming to you guys. Whoops. I have my slides out of order. Which may be very interesting to you because you probably grew up with this song. But it was part of the EUB church, and then that's why it took some time to come over into our hymnal. Another song that came over in the hymnal back then was In the Garden, which was kind of interesting to me. But this man here, Thomas Chisholm, was an uneducated man, but he was a school teacher. I love that first part. When I read it a couple times, that he was uneducated, but then he became an educator. I know that if we had more kids in here, they'd be thinking, oh no, I know who that teacher is. I have that one. Third period. But no, that's not what they're talking about. He educated himself. He wasn't professionally educated. Kind of very similar to some of our disciples that we have. He was a writer. He became an editor of a newspaper, and then later wrote over 1,200 poems, and 800 of them actually became published. So when he went to this individual to write Great is Thy Faithfulness, the musician, William Runyon, was part of the Moody Bible Institute. And so when he received the lyrics, before he put the music to it, William Runyon was very, very cautious about it because he loved the words so much in the song. And so when this person wrote this song, this uneducated man that became educated, became an educator, became a writer. He was a pastor for a very short period of time until he became ill. He moved his family from Kentucky to Indiana back in 1916, moved his family out to New Jersey. So he did a lot of different things, but this is probably his biggest cornerstone part of his life. So last week we talked about, whoopsies, these are all messed up. What is worship? And so I talked about this guy, Forky, and how he's got his own little cartoon show, and I think there's 10 episodes in it. And so we talked about what is worship. And so today we're going to talk about what is faith. And I want to talk about just real briefly that when we talked last week about trust and serving and then going, that the faith part that we do is part of that first step. We have faith in God. We trust God that when we step out of the boat, that God is going to be there with us and working alongside us. So faith, a feeling, conviction, or belief that something is true or real without having evidence. Now, when we see this word, I struggle a lot. And I don't know if there's a teacher in here, maybe Kay can help me later or something, but I struggle with it being a noun. It is a thing to an extent, but faith is something we need to take action on. It calls us to go, and when we serve, when we trust in God, we are taking a faith leap in going. Hebrews 11:1 says that now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. We'll see those two slides throughout this sermon. Like I promised with the kids, we're going to talk about the Father in our life. Great is thy faithfulness, O God, my Father. There is no no shadow of turning with thee. My Father, the person I have faith in, the person that's going to teach me how to do things, the person that's going to give me the hard lessons in life, the one that's going to show mercy and grace when things happen. When I drop a clipboard in the middle of service and everybody panics really quick, right? There's peace, there's grace given in those moments. There's love shared there. Great is my faithfulness, O God, my Father, the giver of these things. And then immediately it switches and turns to there is no shadow of turning with thee. When we talk about shadows, we talk about eternal darkness. We talk about no light being shined, that there's light, but there's nothing behind it. We can't turn ourselves and not be facing towards God because God is around us in all that we do. Now this slide here had me all sorts of twisted all over the place due to the Old English, but thou changest not thy compassions. They fail not. Thou hast been, thou forever wilt be. Compassions. I don't like wearing these masks. I don't like going to the grocery store and wearing a mask. I don't like running back into my car just because I needed to grab a drink out of the gas station. I had to go back in the truck to go grab a mask. I don't enjoy doing that. It's hard for me to do it. I just realized today that I can't have a cough drop in when I normally preach and have a cough drop in and then be able to read my slides because the fumes, I guess, I don't know what it is, but the aroma from the cough drop that's supposed to unclog your nose will get in my eye because this thing's blocking everything, and then it messes my eye up. My eye starts watering and I can't read. They're not fun. They stink. I get it. However, they are there to help people. If it prevents one person, then it did its job. Just like when we look at the story of the leaving the 99, if we have to sacrifice just a little bit of uncomfortableness, we can share love. We can share with somebody else and make them feel safe. And I know that there's people that have been directly told by their medical physicians to not wear a mask, and I understand that. And so there's those people, and there's exceptions to the policy, like there is in most places. But I appreciate everybody that's been coming to church. That was one of the hard things that we just didn't want somebody to be like, well, I don't want to wear a mask, so I'm not going to come to church. And so there might be a person out here that's like that. And so they're not here, and so they're not trying to force their ways on people. And I've seen some things on social media, people trying to tell people, hey, stop yelling at this 18-year-old girl that's supposed to tell you that you need to wear a mask when you walk into the store because it's not her agenda. She isn't political. She's getting paid minimum wage to probably stand there and tell you to do that. So just respect the person. Just love the person and move on with your life. Or don't visit that store if you don't want to wear a mask. But there's opportunities to be compassionate to one another. And the thing about this part of this song is that the compassions that God gives us never fail. Never, ever do they fail. The compassion that God has for us is forever. As it says at the end, that forever it will be. God's love, God's grace, God's mercies are forever given to us. The beginning of verse 2 goes on, it says, in summer and winter and springtime and harvest, sun, moon, and stars, their courses above. God's love and compassion that I just spoke of, it's obvious that what he's trying to say in this part of the song is that it doesn't matter when or what season in life you're in. In the summer, it's great, you can go swimming. It's also terrible when your air conditioning goes out. It stinks, it's hot, it's humid. Winter's great, the snow's fantastic, it's awesome to look at, it's beautiful, until you're in a snowbank because it pushed you off in the wrong direction. Spring is great. It's when the rain comes in, the flowers start growing, and then here in Ohio, spring means that it can be anywhere between 10 and 90 degrees within a week. And then we have the harvest, and if there isn't enough rain, or if there's too much rain in the spring and the summer, then our harvest gets messed up, and it's nice to be able to sit down and put a hoodie on and sit outside and enjoy looking at the leaves. In the midst of every season, there's a good and there's bad. There's stuff that's existing, but no matter what, like we sang in the part before, God's love and compassion is forever given. Join with all nature, manifold witness to thy great faithfulness, mercy, and love. I love this opportunity because we do not, as a church, talk about ecology and theology and how it works together enough. We overlook the part that God gave us dominion, not only out over the entire world, but gave us dominion over the animals and the creatures. And manifold witness to the faithfulness and the mercy and the love that God gives to us. God is there giving this to us, and then, as just the other day, we were in a camper, and you get like 3 channels on the TV. And so there was an infomercial on there. So I want to look at you 3 Reardon boys. How many of you guys have watched an infomercial before? Braden's not sure. That's perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. When I was a kid, when you were a kid, who watched infomercials? Yeah, I used to watch them all the time. They were great. They were fun. They were all these things that just, and there was always, it didn't matter what this person was selling, they always had this thing. But wait, there's more, right? You'd get halfway through the infomercial, and then everything in your kitchen was brought out on top of this table, and this one machine can do all of the things that your 10 machines can do, and it can do it better. But wait, there's more, right? And then they'd throw in some cookbook, or they'd throw in this extra feature, or they would take one of the payments off. Instead of being 4 payments of $19.95, it was only 3 payments, or whatever it would be. That's what's happening in this song, and that's what happens in the theology that we have and our understanding of who God is. God is this giver of grace and mercy and of compassion and love. But wait, there's more. The more is that the pardon for our sins have taken place. Something that we could not earn, something that we could not do, and our pardon happened without payment. But wait, there's more even beyond that. Even beyond the pardoning, a peace is given to us. A peace and a comfort. A presence to cheer and to guide. Beyond that, and wait, there's more. There's strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow. Blessings all mine and 10,000 beside. It's the last verse. Blessings all mine. That peace that's given to us and everything else that's given to us, it isn't just salvation, it's love, it's compassion, it's teaching, like I talked about in verse 1, as a Father, that God is with us and always with us. So when we go to great is thy faithfulness, morning by morning, new mercies I see. That happens when you pray about seeing something that God is doing in your life, and you're in continual prayer, that God, show me the little blessings you're giving me. I challenge you, do something like that. God, show me the mercies you're doing in my life. Pray that twice a day. Maybe on your way to work and on the way home. And I promise you, you'll start seeing those things. Because there are new mercies that are happening every day in our lives. No matter what season of life we're in. No matter how hard or how difficult it seems. Because there's always more for God to give us. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. To 2 weeks in a row, I managed to not sing while I'm up here, so praise be to God for that. There's little mercies there as well too. But great is thy faithfulness. Now before I go and I look back at these scriptures again, I want us to think about this in reverse. I want us to think about, but wait, there's more. When we think about great is thy faithfulness, we think about how our faith in God, and that God is going to be faithful to us. But we never think about God's faith that God has in us. God's faith in us was so strong that God believed that God could put us in the garden and that we wouldn't eat of that apple. And then God saw that that happened. And sin entered the world, and God was still faithful to us. God gave us opportunity after opportunity. But in the very end, we kept failing. Over and over and over again. But God's faith in us was so strong that God saw worth in every single one of them. Enough to not only pardon your sin, but to give His Son in order for your sin to be pardoned. God had faith in humanity enough to send Christ. To let Christ bore a terrible, horrible death, and that faith hasn't changed in us, or God's faith in us has not changed at all. It hasn't wavered, it hasn't gone away. It's just like when this song is talking about the shadow. God is not in that shadow. God is in front of us, trying to lead us in love and grace and mercy. So when I read this scripture again, I want us to look for these things. That the thought of my affliction and my homelessness is wormwood and gall. Wormwood being something that they would use to get rid of sickness in their stomach. My soul continually thinks of it, and it is bowed down within me. But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. And in hope, faith, a feeling, a conviction, or belief that something is true or real without having the evidence. And Hebrews tells us that now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the convictions of all things not seen. Verse 22 and 23, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. God's faithfulness, God's feeling of conviction or belief in us. The assurance of things to hope for. The conviction of things not seen. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in Him. The Lord is good to those who wait for Him, to the soul that seeks Him. It is good that one should wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. Waiting quietly for the salvation of the Lord. If we go back and look at verse 19, the thought of my affliction and my homelessness is wormwood and gall. This is not our final resting place. This is just a temporary place in which we are living. That is why this homelessness feeling comes aside a part of us, that we shouldn't fit in here, that we don't belong here. And the honest truth is we don't. We belong in a divine relationship with God forever and always. Verse 27 and 28, it is good for one to bear the yoke in youth, to sit alone in silence when the Lord has imposed it. To put one's mouth to the dust, there may yet be hope. To give one's cheek to the smiter, to be filled with incense. To be like a young child. To be able to be taught by the Father, the one, the giver of faith, the one that had faith in you first, before you were even who you are. Faith. noun, it is a thing, but it calls us to action. To me, it's a verb, it's a feeling that we act upon, it's a conviction we have to act upon, it's a belief that we have to act upon to give it evidence in the world. So that way when we read Hebrews 11, now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the convictions of things not seen. Faith. Christ came and he sat down at that table. He had faith in the disciples that were sitting there. He believed, even though that there wasn't proof there, that these disciples would go and carry out the Great Commission. That although Peter and the rest of them were uneducated, they would do great and magnificent things. As we read about this Thomas character, or this Thomas person who wrote this beautiful hymn for us. Was an uneducated person, but educated others. Was an editor of a newspaper, wrote poems, gave us this beautiful hymn. Christ had faith in him, just as Christ had faith in you, and does have faith, and gives you new mercies every morning. So when Christ grabbed that bread and he took it and he said, "This is my body broken for you. Take and eat in remembrance of me." Just like I said before in those infomercials, but wait, there's more. Not only is my body going to be broken for you, but my blood is going to be poured out for you so you may have salvation, the cup of the new covenant. A promise of God's faith in you forever and always. He told him to drink. That when they drink of that cup, that they remember the cup of the new covenant, the new promise, the new mercies given to them. Let us pray. Dear God, I thank you for simple things and just a beautiful hymn. How it warms our heart, how it encourages our soul, how it calls us to action in love and grace and mercy. God, that your love is never failing, that your love is always giving. That when we're empty, you give to us and fill us beyond what we think is full. You provide us with fathers in our life, teachers in our life, to remind us of the faith that you have in us to change and to be good and whole and pure in relationship with you. It's in your name we pray. Sing, leaning on the everlasting